Hello, I'm Heather Ramsay and welcome to HTV. So you are a member of the Fall Fair Board. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
About being a member of the Fall Fair Board? Well, I've been on the Port Alberni Fall Fair Board since 1997. I took my first official position as treasurer. And over the years, I've held many different positions. Probably the only thing I haven't done is the agricultural area. So I've been learning a lot and working with a lot of different people over the years. The past few years, I've been spent as a vice to our president and assisting him in all of his duties.
How did you get involved with the fair?
When we moved here in 1980, and my parents were introduced to kinsmen who were the Fall Fair was their project back then. So because of that, my parents brought us kids up to the fair and we would volunteer throughout the summer. And that was quite a few years ago. And one of the first things that we did was build the poultry cages for the Stevens barn. And I can remember that big building that everybody calls the Kinsman Community Center. We referred to that as the new building because it had there was still a mortgage on it when we started. So,
what's your favorite part of being involved with the fair?
It's the people. And you work in a board like that, you work with a lot of different personalities. And not everybody always jives together, but there's an air of cooperation and an air of, I think, forgiveness of the differences that we have in our personalities. And it's a satisfying feeling seeing us come together. But overall, my absolute favorite is during any event that the Fall Fair holds and seeing the happiness of the people. When I work at the front gate and I'm just trying to help people get through the gate and not wait in the lineup, it's like one of my favorite things to talk to the kids. When I did the Amazing Race this year and being able to chat with people and do those kinds of things, that for me it's the reason why I do what I do.
You are also in charge of the Junior Fall Fair Board.
Yes.
So what is that?
So the Junior Fall Fair Board is a group of kids who are aged between 12 and 18. We do take kids who are younger and we mold them up. We have had an active Junior Fair Board in the past, and of course through COVID we had our kids aged out and we didn't get new kids to replace. So this year we started with a brand new board and I had some brand new individuals. And what we do is we they normally would organize their own projects and they would create their own budgets, have their own meetings, and be able to present those to the Fall Fair, and they would host their own project during the Fall Fair. This year was a beginning year, so the kids all got to work with me and see how the fair was run and get an idea of things that they can do for next year. So in this year, in 2023, we'll see those junior board kids take on a project. It helps them to see the benefits of volunteering for the community, helps them to do some organization of projects, and helps them to do budgeting and run meetings. So, and I like working with kids, so it's an easy fit for me.
What kind of projects would they do?
So in the past, they have done things like hosted a photo booth in the Glenwood Center where the home show is. They have also done a coat check, and they've done the grocery game. They hosted the grocery game, which was a whole day of Saturday, greeting the public and introducing them to the whole BC and our local agriculture and those kinds of things. They also have done projects. We require, like part of the requirement or what we look for is for them to hold a project that's outside of fair. So in the past, they participated at the Our Town events and they would come up with their own idea. One year they took a big piece of plywood and drew a cow on it, and then they had kids come and put their handprints all over the cow, and then they displayed that during fair. Other years they just did like coloring and stuff, and then they hand out prize books and talk to the kids to get them encouraged about fair. So just that kind of thing, organizing those things. And I believe our Fall Fair Junior Board this year participated in our night market, which was in July, and they made buttons, badges for all the kids. So,
do other fairs have a junior board?
So It's more and more upcoming. In BC, the typical age of our fair boards is like even older than me. And so their younger group is harder to come by. But we have our junior board has presented at our BC Fairs convention. It's like stood up in front of an audience of 100 people and explained what they do. And there's been a lot of positive feedback and people are trying to work towards it. I know there are junior boards in bigger fairs back east. And we did have one girl working with us this year at our fair. Wouldn't be a junior board member, but that was one of the ways that she started in her fair.
How long have you worked with the junior board?
9 years. I would have to think back, maybe 8 years. So I have to think how old my kids were when it started. So probably 8 years, yeah.
What's your favorite part of the junior board?
Probably watching the kids flourish. And the kids that are shy or don't really feel involved or feel a part of it, and seeing them find their spot and feel part of the group. And I do have to tell them at the beginning, there's a lot of work before the reward, and you're not going to see the reward at all. You won't have any idea what the reward is until it's all over, so just to stay at it. So seeing the smiles on the kids' faces, seeing them want to do things, want to volunteer, and want to be there, that is what makes me really happy working with the junior board.
How would someone join?
So basically, right now we have people that just contact me or contact the fair board, and once that happens, I just reach out to them and I start including, at this point we're including parents in an email, and we indicate when our meetings are going to be and what's going to happen, and we just encourage them to attend all of the meetings and take part in it and see if it's going to work for them. If there's one person who's interested and they might not know anybody else on the board, we suggest that they bring a friend, because sometimes it's much more comfortable to walk into a group when you have a friend there. So it's just a matter of reaching out to the fair board or to myself.
The fall fair isn't your paid job. What is?
So I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA, and I work for Coastal Bridge and Construction. That's my regular day job, doing all sorts of different kinds of activities out there.
So what is an accountant?
Okay, that's a hard question. Okay. There's different kinds of accountants, and I guess I'm a bit on the management side of accounting. I take care of all of our current cash flow needs. I do some budgeting. I work with the owner about future purchases and plans, and to make some financial decisions about where the company is going to go. I work with the people, with the employees. I work with, customers, and I work with our vendors. So it's a very well kind of rounded position that I do, but there are different kinds of accountants.
How long have you been doing this?
I received my certification in 2002. So that's how long I've been working in, fully certified in the accounting. I have, however, been working in accounting for 30 years in one way or another.
What's the best part of your job?
So I really like numbers, and accounting, I think when I started doing my accounting course, the best line that was taught to me in my first year was that accounting is an art, not a science. And it truly is. When you are looking at making something work or how to do it and figuring out how to solve a puzzle with the numbers, I think that's what gets me all excited. Like, how much do we need to charge to make this project work? How much can we afford to pay for this? And working with those numbers to make everything, have a profit at the end of the day.
What's the hardest part?
When you have to make a tough decision, a tough financial decision, especially if it's a tough financial decision that revolves around employees or people that you work with, that's the hardest part.
What do you need to know to be an accountant?
So you need to know some math, but we have calculators. you have to go to school to be an accountant. You can do it through the CPA program in BC, but you do have to know what a debit and credit are, and you need to know what a trial balance is and a balance sheet, but they teach you all of that stuff in school.
Did you always live here?
I was actually born in Terrace, and then we moved to Powell River, and then we moved to Vancouver, and then we moved to Port Alberni. So for the first 10 years of my life, I lived in 4 places, and I've been in Port Alberni ever since. So moved here when I was 10. So,
what's your favorite things about the valley?
I love the scenery here. Now, I'm not much of an outdoors person. I'm going to be quite honest about that. I like going for walks, but you're not going to see me going on a hike anywhere. But I love when I'm driving down like Redford, and especially at night, and I can look over and I can see all the lights of the mill and how bright it is. Or when I'm coming down Argyle and being able to look over the canal. When I'm driving to work in the morning and I can watch 2 deer that are riding on the side of the road. The hummingbirds, like just all the wildlife and the beauty that's here. And I do find that our community can be quite friendly. So I really do like it here. Kind of a lifer now.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored that you asked me to be here with you today.
What do you do as a school district trustee?
Well, probably many things, but oftentimes I'm asked about what I do as a trustee, and I always respond, especially to the students and young people, that it's really my job as a trustee to make sure that we have a good place for you to learn, that we have lots of resources for young people to investigate and research, and that we have great teachers, and also we have really safe and welcoming buildings and schools that you come to every day. So it's so important that a trustee make sure that they follow those key things first, and then after that there's lots of other work. We work hard to make sure that all the money that government gives us is properly balanced and accounted for, and we also make sure that the really only employee that a trustee or a board of education has is the superintendent of the school district. And so that's the other important part of our work, is to have a superintendent in place that we work closely with and advise and help that person do the job of managing the whole district.
So what's your favorite part of your job?
Favorite part is when I get to go and watch kids and see the students doing things in school, watching them do their sports, watching them do artwork, and one of the biggest things is watching them do some of their special presentations. They'll do some study and present a project and tell trustees visiting what they've done, what they've learned. That to me is absolutely the most favorite thing that I get to do. Haven't been able to do a lot of it the last couple of years because of our issue with the pandemic, but occasionally we have had a chance to really visit with students right from kindergarten right to grade 12.
What's the hardest part?
Oh, the hardest part is deciding where the small little bits of money that we have to use is spent. And one of the important programs that we always try to help out with is a kayak course out on the West Coast, because we also have schools in Ucluelet and Tofino and Bamfield. So there's a special course that kids can take out there, and that is one course that we've tried really hard to keep ready each year for students that want to take that course. So it's tough sometimes because there's not always a lot of funding, and so we have to struggle to make sure that there's a balance of use of those little bits of extras.
So how long have you been a trustee?
Well, I've been a trustee from 1990 to 2002, and stepped back at that time because we had an illness in my family. And after a number of years, I came back in 2011 and now am still a trustee. So this year, in 2022, is my 23rd year as a trustee. And I recently attended a provincial conference, and I was given a life membership in the British Columbia School Trustee Association. If you've been a trustee for more than 20 years, you get a special designation. So I have a special pin that they gave me. It's a gold apple.
What made you want to be a trustee?
Well, I think the biggest reason was that I, as a adult who had lived and grown up here in Port Alberni, I know how important it was to support young people and all ages, right through from little children right through to young adults. And one way to do that was to be a trustee and work closely in making sure that those young people had the resources they needed to learn and grow up in a safe place. So that's been my driving force since I started in 1990.
Did you like school when you were a kid?
Yeah, I liked school. Yeah, I sure did. Enjoyed everything. Worked in different clubs in school, played some of the sports, enjoyed volleyball and basketball in particular. Port Alberni is a very historical place for basketball. When I was growing up, the local basketball team, Alberni Athletics, went to the Canadian Championships and won. So many times I spent at the halls where the basketball was played, and so enjoyed that as a student at school. And remember the totem tournament. I'm sure you've heard of the totem tournament. Started when I was still in school. So I've actually attended every totem tournament that we've had in our school district. So it's been a long time, but my favorite.
So what were your favorite subjects?
My favorite subject was history. One of the main reasons was because one of my family on the one side came to this community in about 1856 or somewhere in there. So I always was curious as to why they came, what the life was for them when they were here. It was a difficult time. They didn't have all the special things we have now, including electricity at the time. So I really enjoyed learning about that and how they developed and grew their family, and they did farming, they had a grocery store, and how the times were so different then as compared to even when I was in school. So that's a long time ago, over 100 years ago. So that really sparked my interest in history, and then it moved on to learning more about Canada and how it began and developed as a country.
Was there a teacher that inspired you to care about school?
Yes, for sure, and there were many teachers. But I think one person that I remember often, as I do remember many others, was Mr. Nash. And he had really bright red hair, and he taught many classes and many different courses, of course, but one of his most favorite things to do was music. And at the time he had a club for choir, so I was able to participate in that and practice during lunch hours and after school. And oftentimes we would go to competitions around the island and sing all the kinds of different, some difficult pieces as well. So that, he left an impression. But one other person that I met last night at an event, whom I haven't seen for a while, was my grade 6 teacher at the old Calgary school, which isn't there anymore, but I went to Calgary school. And I came into the event and he came right to me and said, "How are you doing, Pam?" So I couldn't believe that he would have remembered me all those years. And he's still in the community. So lots of favorites, but those two in particular.
So you're in Aerosmith Rotary, so how long have you been involved?
I've been involved with Aerosmith Rotary a couple of times. I took a break in the early 2000s, but it's about 14 years altogether. And one of the reasons that I really enjoyed Rotary was many of the people that belonged to Rotary think the same way I do. They want to help the community, they want to do things that support the community, and especially young people. We're very focused on literacy programs. We also helped out with the high school students when they were taking their food safe courses and provided the monies to get their certification and things like that. So it's another way for me to support young people in the community and the community as a whole. And I think it contributes to people brightening the community and having a lovely place to live with supportive service groups such as Rotary. And we worked really hard to develop the banner painting program for Argyle Street. And I know you have participated in that. And it comes out mid-May, June each year and brightens Argyle Street. And we also did the big mural on the CME building at the bottom of Argyle that represents our First Nation, Tashak Nation, and their history. So again, I've come around to history, and helping support the community through Rotary, I think, has been very gratifying to be able to do that.
So why did you join Rotary?
Well, I got to know some of the people that were in Rotary, and I really appreciated their focus and their plans and what they wanted to do to support the community. And so when I met them, I thought, this is a group that I can help out with as well, and enjoyed working with them. And they all have the same focus and the same ideas and work hard to support our community and do things that are needed to support all kinds of areas of the community as well. And recently we've worked really hard to help some of the less fortunate in our community, helping out with the Salvation Army food truck on Thursday nights, and really enjoyed that and seen a difference by our time. So it's really worthwhile.
So you used to drive race cars. How did you get?
I got started in racing when I was a teenager. A close friend of mine who I ended up marrying had a kart. Have you seen karts? They're very low to the ground and go very, very fast, have no fenders, no covers, nothing. So we started with kart racing on Vancouver Island and got interested in stock car racing and truly enjoyed it, enjoyed running high-powered vehicles and racing in a circuit in the northwest of the United States and Canada. So enjoyed that a lot and still like to watch racing and watch how fast they go. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the racing was really understanding the engines, how the car is put together, all the mechanical parts that are needed to make the car go fast and keep going. Some of those races are anywhere from 3.5 to 5 hours, so they have to make sure that those machines are well prepared and can stand that length of time at those speeds. So that part of it was fascinating to me, so I enjoyed that part.
So what's the best part
about racing? I think it's also about the people that you get to meet. You get to meet some pretty talented people with lots of knowledge and understanding of how the machine, the car works itself, and they're focused on that, and they work hard to make sure that they do a good job and prepare things well and put in many, many long hours. So that part of it to me was the most interesting. Most teams that I participated in had maybe anywhere from 10 to 12 people that were directly on looking after the vehicle, making sure everything was right. And some of the teams, professional teams, have a lot more people, but that was a smaller end of the racing world that I was in.
Thanks for watching HTV. Until next time, I'm Heather Ramsay.